What's up, everybody? Welcome to State of the Nation, the Athletics Raiders podcast. Jimmy Durkin and Vic Tafur here in Alameda, and I don't know, we got anything to talk about, Vic?
Nah, pretty slow day. Gruden was pretty boring at the press conference. Not much to talk about.
For guys like you that had to endure the 11-hour flight home from London Monday, I guess you kind of needed a day like this, a press conference like this, to kind of wake you up so you can snap out of the slumber for a day and then go into the week-long hibernation for the bye. I mean, Jon Gruden in top form really here on Tuesday.
Yeah, you can sense his frustration. Definitely, I think trying to still keep it light. I think some things that were interesting, some things he probably will regret tomorrow. But let's go over it and kind of recap those who didn't watch that press conference, just exactly what went down.
I mean, so let's kind of go. Yeah, what are our highlights? I would say one of them for sure is the quote about, we're definitely not tanking. He hears the hatred, and it was certainly annoyed that people are writing or suggesting that this team is tanking. I know we did have a headline that called them the tanking Raiders. Tim Kawakami, our editor-in-chief, who I think if I'm reading Tim's Twitter account, Tim is taking that as a direct hit toward him, that maybe Gruden read that, and who knows? Other people could write it too.
And fans are saying it, but I think Tim definitely called it out. I think to me, it's almost a compliment. If you say you're tanking, that means you're not doing that bad a job. You're not being terrible.
You're excelling at the tank job.
Exactly. You're actually consciously trying not to be as bad as you look. Because if you're not tanking and you're this bad the last two games, then there's some real problems. So I think he took it the wrong way. I think he maybe took it as he's not trying his best, and maybe that he's going back on a promise to fans that we're going to be competitive this year and give them what they wanted to see. But he's clearly at the end of his rope. Definitely, I think he doesn't have any answers, and I'm sure he's frustrated. He mentioned he has some regrets. Gruden does, things he might have done differently. I'm not going to say what those could be, but people can figure that out. But I just think that it's a long season. They're 6 games in. They've had their 2 worst games the last 2 weeks. Not a lot of talent I think you can turn to or reasons to be excited if you're him, but they made a move today. They cut Derek Johnson, and they brought up Jason Cabinda off the practice squad. So that's one.
Move you predicted. That was in our season preview. I think it was, what's the most likely in-season roster move? You had them moving to the Jason Cabinda era. So congratulations there. You nailed that one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think Derek Johnson, it was a nice try. I think you clearly saw why the Chiefs traded him. Cut him. The Chiefs cut him just because I think there's not a lot left there. He's still a very smart guy. He's a leadership type. That's what they wanted here. But to be a leader and have it work the way you want, a guy has to be able to play and make plays in the field. And his playing time was being cut back every week by Markel Lee, who himself is not quite an ideal fit. He's more of a run guy than a pass coverage guy. So Cabinda's got a little more athleticism. He flashed a little bit in the preseason. He'll have a chance. I thought it was curious that when John mentioned Cabinda and how he'll get a chance today, no mention of Nick Morrow. So Nick Morrow may be getting passed over by Cabinda, but we'll see how that plays out. He did say that there was interest from other teams about Cabinda, so maybe it's the thing where the agent said, hey, man, he's going to get called off your practice squad if you don't make a move, and so they did. So whatever, it can't hurt. I think they got to play the young guys, see what they have at this point.
Back to that idea of tanking. I mean, I think in the NFL it's really hard to actually tank. I mean, I think we see in basketball, obviously the Sixers did it. They tanked. We've seen in baseball teams just, okay, we're not, with a salary structure in baseball, you can just, we're not going to have any guys making any money. You can kind of tank. Football, I mean, they have their salary floors, their salary caps, and all that. It's not easy to tank. And so, I'm not going to say that this is a concerted tanking effort, but, I mean, when you trade away one of your best players, when you're now, according to reports, RJ Glazer is reporting, that they've been trying to shop both Carl Joseph and Amari Cooper. When you're doing that, it does show that, you are not focused on winning this year. And, I mean, I think when you are sitting there at 1-5 and you can see the way the season is trending, it probably is prudent to not focus on winning this year. So, I mean, I can see the annoyance in being in the suggestion that you're tanking because, you are still getting up at 4 a.m. and putting in all the work. But
the nicer way of saying it is that we're trying to win in the future.
Yeah.
We're trying to improve
rebuilding,
chances.
which is he won't. But he refused to say that word.
That's also because fans don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
That's one of those words that you can't. I mean, fans pay so much money for tickets and parking. They're flying to London to watch you guys. You can't say, hey, we're not really trying our best to win this game. We're looking towards the future. But fans get it, and if at least some fans, if that promise of the future is good enough, they might actually buy in. But they've heard it so many times here. I mean, it's been the last 16 years of just one winning season. I just think, like I wrote about yesterday with the changing of the culture, there are phrases that if you're a fan, you just don't want to hear anymore. It doesn't mean anything. Like, I mean, what is rebuilding? We've been rebuilding for the last 15 years. So I just think, and also because you were 12-4. And again, people say that record was
inflated,
tainted. They got lucky.
But it is what it is.
It is. They won 12 games. They had young talent. They had 2 foundations, which other players signed to play with those guys.
Yep.
And now you're looking at one gone, the other guy is struggling, and there's not much left besides that in the cupboard. I mean, Cooper could be gone. I mean, you're paying your 3 interior linemen a lot of money. Are those guys been around for a while? I doubt it. So it's a mess.
Well, and another, probably to me the most stunning thing I think that Gruden had to say was when the topic of Rashaan Melvin came up. Rashaan Melvin, barely played on Sunday, expressed some frustration about it, both to a reporter and then later on Twitter. Said he's done changing. He's going to be himself. And
because they've tried to have him change his technique. They have a different kind of hand technique, which they don't really want to get into what they want, but it's different than what he's done in the past.
Yeah.
And I think to his credit, he's tried very hard to do what they wanted. Now, I remember all players tell me, like Leon Hall, when I had that conversation with him, says so many days in Napa, he would be one of the last guys off the field, like he was getting extra work in. He'd look over and he'd see Rashad Melvin way in the back of the field, still running through drills, killing himself in the Napa heat. So, I mean, Melvin's a hard worker. He's a very good guy. So I just think not a guy you want to kill in a press conference.
And kill him he did. Talking about his unhappiness, here's the quote from Jon Gruden. Melvin's on a 7th team, I think. Maybe he's confused about what technique he's using. He's used a lot of different techniques. Maybe he's confused. I mean, really? That's what you're going with? Here's a guy that, like you said, has been working hard to learn this technique, and you're just going to kill him and saying maybe he's confused about which technique he's supposed to. And this is, I think we can read a lot of these when Jon gets kind of frustrated with a player as, okay, well, no, it's a Reggie guy. It's a Reggie guy, and we're going to get into the whole Reggie deal in a minute. But this is a guy that they signed. So Gruden said he hasn't talked to Melvin yet, but that Gunther did. Kind of understands the frustration. He says, hey, if I 3-putted on the green, I'd be throwing my club too. But I don't know. I mean, to call him out like that, and maybe he's confused about what technique. Not a great look in terms of how Gruden, how he's going to start getting viewed in this locker room.
Yeah, and I think when you bring guys in, like Rashad Melvin, true, this is actually his 6th team. But all those teams, he made strides. He's a guy who's worked hard to get where he is. He was looking to come here, have a big year, hit the free agent mark. That was his goal. And they wanted him. They were happy when they got him. They had big plans for him. So for him not to fit is as much on you as it is on him.
Yep.
I mean, you have to coach around the strength of your players. And this is a guy who you recruited. You told him you wanted to be here. You had plans for him. You brought him here.
Gave him a good amount of money.
Yeah, and so I think it's on you as well. So I just don't know why you take a shot at Rashad Melvin. I mean, I know he tweeted something, but I mean, Twitter is Twitter. I mean, you can't. If you're a coach of an NFL team, you can't be sensitive to what guys tweet. If it wasn't even a direct, it was kind of a vague, kind of like everyone knew what he was talking about, Rashaan, but it wasn't like, hey, you guys, Gruden and Gunther, you guys are killing me. I worked hard for you guys. It wasn't. It was just a vague, hey man, I've tried it that way. It's not working.
I'm going to go back to me.
Which makes sense, logical. I mean, I would say that. So it's just of all things today that Gruden said, that one shocked me the most, and I thought was the one that will linger the most in the locker room. Yeah,
you just wonder what the bye week ends up being like for him. I mean, we're talking about a lot of possible player movement. You wonder if now, I mean, if he's a guy that you look to move for, I don't know, you're probably not getting a whole lot for him. But
because it's a 1-year deal. But clearly I would think at this point, I guess you might as well, because I don't know what. He wasn't going to be back here next year anyway. I mean, he was trying to go somewhere else for a bigger deal, and now I'm sure he'll take any deal to go somewhere else. So I just think it's bad look.
And another bad look was we continue on the cornerback theme. Jon Gruden talking about Gareon Conley. Quote, I want to see more of Gareon Conley. Yeah. Vic, can you tell me how many defensive snaps Gareon Conley played on Sunday in London?
It's 0.
Vic, can you tell me who the head coach of this team is, a guy who can theoretically determine playing time for Gareon Conley?
Yeah, it'd be Jon Gruden.
And who said that he wants to see more of Gareon Conley?
Yeah, so I don't know if he's. Yeah, it's just another bizarre throwaway comment that makes no sense. I just think sometimes I think he just can't help himself. I think John just starts talking, and he I'm sure afterwards, I shouldn't have said that, but whatever. I mean, I said it, and then he kind of moves on. I don't think he really dwells on these things, but yeah, he said in the past that Connolly, and so has Gunther. He's a young player. Didn't play a lot last year. We're gonna bring him along slowly. Doesn't really jive with the rest of the roster. They're throwing rookies in left and right. So they clearly don't like him. They're not going to say it. There's something about his game they don't like. He's gotten burned deep a couple times. Not a good tackler. Not the impact player he should be where he was drafted. But still, probably their best athlete at cornerback. Still probably the most upside. So you got to play him. And then when you don't play him, you can't say, hey, that guy should be playing more. What's going on?
Yeah.
So just another bad look for John.
Well, and as we talk about them not playing Conley, Gruden kind of bragged about all these rookies that he's playing. Another gem of a quote. I've been accused my whole life of hating rookies and loving veteran players, and now I'm playing 10 rookies. What do you think of that, America? the throw-in of America to me, I don't know.
He's
hilarious.
Funny. It's hard not to laugh when he talks. I think America right now would say, you know what, you guys are 1-5. We don't really care about you guys too much.
Neither does London.
Yeah, so I just think it's just another weird thing to say. But clearly he's taking a lot of those things to heart. Clearly he's frustrated and taking a lot of it personally. And he had a little chance to vent today, which I hope felt good. I hope it kind of gets him through the bye week and he can kind of hit the refresh button. But another point, he talked to Raider fans, hey, do you guys tell Raider fans that we're working hard, we have some good guys, and we're going to be entertaining. We'll be fun to watch. He didn't say when, but I just think he's worried about the perception. And obviously he definitely sees he's getting killed out there. He's getting ripped to shreds wherever, every market, every medium. So it can't be a good feeling for a guy who was so well loved last year on the football broadcast on his little coaching camp show.
Yeah, and you can tell that he hears all the he hears all the outside chatter because he went and told us about a meeting he had with Reggie McKenzie yesterday. Reggie and I had a long meeting yesterday. I know that's a shock to some people that think we don't have any meetings.
I laughed. I tell myself when I go these things, I got to keep the straight face. I want to but he's funny. He cracks me up. And again, that's a ridiculous thing to say because, it's obvious that, Reggie's been neutered a lot here. Reggie does not have the pull that he once had. He's not really a typical GM anymore. He's kind of like he's even an advisor, but he still goes he has to go to meetings. They're paying him. So, but just the fact that John would mention that, he thinks that he's trying to tell us something like, hey, this is really the way it's going on, not the way you guys say it is. But I just think it's another it's a sensitive thing. It's sensitive about it, and he wanted to fire back, and it's just a lot of bad looks today. It's bad looks. It's bad look central today. And
I don't get the point of trying to prop up that Reggie does still have a major role here. And
I think he likes Reggie. I think they get along personally.
Yeah.
I think he hates the picks he's made the last 3 years. He's made no bones about saying that. He's killed Reggie's picks whenever he can.
And rightfully so. We're not going to sit here and say that Reggie's made great picks.
Right. I guess if Reggie wanted to, if he had a platform, he could say, hey, man, let's look at the guys that Gruden signed this offseason. But it goes both ways. But, yeah, I just think he's trying to at least save face for him and Reggie or kind of make it look like he didn't come in here and just kind of take over and kind of not worry about anyone's feelings. He's definitely trying to play that part. But
by the end of this year, when Reggie moves on, it's going to be obvious that that's not the case. Nobody here, I think, expects Reggie McKenzie to still be with the Raiders beyond this season, and I don't think Reggie would want to stay beyond this season.
I don't know in terms of his contract. I don't know exactly what, but I think he's here because he's on a contract. I think if not, he'd be gone by now.
All right. Any other big highlights you enjoyed from that presser? I know he talked about Derek Carr. And
that was good. Again, Derek has struggled, and he said that he had a meeting with Derek this week, and that they've talked about it, and he realizes that he has to get better. And he kind of said, you know what? That's another thing I'm sure he's heard about the rumors. Derek Carr's next. So he's going to cut him or trade him. But he's like, I said when I got here, Derek's a great player. He's the best player on our team. And if he fails, that's on me. If he doesn't play well, that's my fault. He's on my watch. So I think he clearly wants to own that one. And definitely, I think, who knows? With Gruden, everything could change overnight. But I think he definitely still believes that Carr can be a top quarterback, and he can be the guy that gets him there.
Who he's not sure about is his special teams unit, and he kind of killed the special teamers too. Johnny Townsend, terrible game on Sunday. Yeah. Matt McCrane, probably not long for this league. Gruden talked about, I went and talked to Janikowski after the game. Seabass, he's still out there getting touchbacks. We need touchbacks. And he really went in pretty hard on Townsend too, a guy that they draft. I mean, that's his draft pick. He went and drafted him, and obviously a terrible rookie season for Johnny Townsend. He's just he doesn't look like he's got a leg out there.
Right. And going back to the Seabass thing, I mean, fans will point out that they had Seabass.
Yeah,
he could still have those touchbacks. So I just think Gruden, when he says things like that, doesn't really catch himself. But yeah, I think he's tried to be nice with Townsend so far. He kind of gave him the weather excuse on Sunday after the game, but clearly, I think the question mark with him is, and he mentioned the different snappers, yada, 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 but I don't see the foot. I don't see the big foot. I mean, you draft a punter, and you should never draft a punter unless the guy's incredible, but when you draft a punter, he's got to be an obvious,
he's got to be Michael Dixon, who's just killing it.
That guy's incredible. He can, from the first vantage point, I get it. But even in camp, you didn't really see it. You're like, okay, he places the ball well, he's a great kid, but
could have got him as an undrafted free agent.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's not good. I mean, at some point you got to maybe have tryouts if it doesn't get better. But he said they got to flip the field. The field's business has been terrible so far, and it hasn't gotten better. So that falls on your kicker and your punter.
When you see so many teams in the league that live in a world where the specialists are guys that you pick up as undrafted guys, like they did with Eddie Pinheiro, and if he hadn't got hurt, maybe they'd be in a better situation there. But when like you said, when you actually draft one of those guys, they've got to be really good, and he does not look like a guy that should have been drafted, that's for sure. I mean, if you feel like you could have either got him as an undrafted free agent or probably got somebody even better, because he's not cutting it. But all right, ready to move on from the Gruden press conference. I mean, this was kind of a throwback, just a classic, just one of those press conferences that you walk out of and just, what did I witness? And at least it gives us a lot to talk about going into the bye week, right?
Yeah, and we asked him about Colton Miller's struggles. Colton Miller's given up 6. I mean, again, I don't know if you give him credit for all 6, but he's given up 6 sacks the last 2 weeks by most accounts. And he kind of put that one on Assembly's absence. Assembly does a lot to help him out, which makes sense. And his quote was that you don't need to be a football scholar to know a lot has gone into the last 2 games. It's not just like a team getting blown out. There's a lot of excuses for it, which is true. There have been injuries, but
everybody has injuries.
Exactly, and you got to do a better job of scheming it. And just like that opening sequence, I thought was terrible. They came out and clearly decided we're going to give the Rashaan the ball 3 times in a row, no matter what. Stuff for 2 yards, 3rd and 6, and you still give them the ball again. You lose just 3, and so just a bad plan. I mean, you have to. Scripts are great, but if that's your script, you got to be willing to go away from it pretty quickly. If you realize they'll have 10 guys in the box and they're waiting for Marshawn Lynch to even on 3rd down. So it was just
come on, it's beast mode going against his own team. He's fired up.
No, man, that game was over right when it started because they couldn't establish a run at all, and the Seahawks did. Seahawks ran the ball down the Raiders' throats. And so clearly from the opening moments, you had a pretty good idea how the game was going to go, and that's the way it went. So speaking of Rashaan, we should mention that Gruden did say there's some concern about his injury status.
Groin strain. I guess it looks like he's going to be getting an MRI during the bye week, and
And Gruden said, if that guy tells me he's sore, then I'm definitely worried about it. So, I mean, we'll know more probably next week, but probably the best player on the team so far, the guy who's had the best season in terms of just his production, and that'd be a pretty big blow. I mean, again, at this point, what are we talking about? But definitely to lose your best guy would make it harder to lose, to win some more games.
Gruden also characterized Derek Carr as sore. In terms of other injuries, I think Kelechi Osemele, we'll see coming back from the bye. I think they would hope.
And I asked him, Colton said that he has injuries similar to Osemele's. Why is Colton playing and KO not?
We're doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing, man. We got the one guy can play and the one guy can't. So they need KO back to get that line. Line's been terrible of late. So and he mentioned Cooper and Seth Roberts both in the concussion protocol.
And we saw Cooper in the locker room today. Wasn't allowed to speak because of the protocol, but he was walking around. He didn't seem to be. Not that you can judge a guy's concussion just by looking at him, but chit chat, small talk with him. I think he's probably going to be okay long term. I don't think it's going to be something that coming off the bye should be too much of an issue.
As soon as he's healthy, they got to trade him. So
right? That's what we want to get into now.
I was kidding, by the way. But not really.
Is it fire sale time? You see this in baseball that when a team is out of contention, they start fire sailing. And obviously the reports are out there that they are looking to trade. I personally don't think they're going to be able to acquire a first-round pick for for Amari Cooper, obviously, but
You got no leverage. Why would someone give you a first-round pick?
mid-second round, maybe. I don't know. What do you think? Are you on? I mean, at least with the way that Gruden is kind of running this team, should they trade Amari Cooper?
Well, it depends. I mean, which guy are we talking about? We're talking about the guy who makes all the big plays in the games he has a lot of yards for, or we're talking about the guy who doesn't get 30 yards in half the games he plays? So I think, and I don't blame Gruden or the staff for this, I think the question mark is, can you really count on, for whatever reason, can you count on Cooper? Is he going to be an elite guy? And if you don't know it by now, I mean, they've had different coaches. Like the last staff had problems with him, and a lot of it's on Derek, and the scheme is definitely to blame in both cases. But, I mean, a lot of it's got to be on Amari. I mean, Amari can't. You've seen so far he has a hard time against top cornerbacks. Cornerbacks kind of take him out of his game. You kind of be able to push around a little bit at times. So most of the games he had that were huge were against guys who weren't that I don't want to say talented, but not billed as a top cornerback. So I don't know. I mean, he's going to require a lot of money to bring him back longer than the next year. So I think it makes sense to look and explore. But and really, if you have decided he's not your guy, then you just do it. I mean, get whatever you can for him, because next year could be messy if he holds out, and then the whole thing could just be a bigger mess. So I think if they have this, if they have decided he's not the guy, then by all means trade him.
Yeah, I mean, he's due about $14 million next year on that fifth-year option, the famous fifth-year option that Khalil Mack was set to be on this year. And so you would figure if you trade him somewhere, that team's going to want to sign him to a long-term extension. They would, and it'd be a chance to, over the last 10 games or whatever, 9 games, 8 games, however long it is, to kind of have a little bit of, I guess if you're the team that's trading for him, the nice thing there is you get him on a pretty good salary this year. You get the rest of the season to evaluate him, right. And then you can say, all right, do we want to pay him the $14 million and bring him back next year? Do we want to sign him to, and hope he'll come in on that?
He probably won't hold out because he knows you're interested to the point where you trade for him. You have long-term plans for him. So I think he'd be less likely to hold out than he would here. So I think it makes sense for a team to pay a little bit more than you might want to, but not a first-round pick. But and obviously, talent-wise, he's phenomenal. He runs routes great. He's athletic. He's smart. I mean, all the things are there to be an elite guy. But for whatever reason, he has not been an elite guy here. So I think if you're Gruden and you came in saying he'll be the focal point of our offense, he's a centerpiece, but he hasn't been. So why is that? I mean, has Gruden seen something where that can't be the case? So, I mean, he won't tell us that. I mean, maybe he might at some point, but not yet. So
not until he trades him. Not until he convinces the team that he just needs a change of scenery. And once he gets him, I mean, because if you're the team trading for him, that's what you're hoping. Is that a change of scenery is all that it takes to spark Amari, and that boom, he's back to the guy that he looked like he was going to be his first couple of years, and then suddenly you've got a star receiver in the making.
It's a slippery slope, man. Once you decide you can't contend this year and you aren't close, and you think of what guys might be around when you can contend, it's pretty easy. Like, that guy's not going to, that guy, and just kind of you. Even guy, I know he likes Cooper, but you're like, you know what? I'm not positive. So you can go. I just think it's easier to knock the cross guys off than it is to circle guys when you look at the big picture.
Yeah, I mean, and Carl Joseph, obviously, I mean, if they can get, they'll take whatever you can get. I mean, I don't know how, to trade a former first rounder and get a 5th round pick, that's not good value, right. But if you're not going to play him,
I mean, the Raiders right now could be like they were 5-10 years ago when guys didn't work out here. Other teams would be like, you know what? That's not his fault. That's the Raiders are screwed up. The Raiders that's a joke organization. That guy's fine. And hopefully, it sounds mean, but hopefully some team says, you know what? Carl Joseph, there was enough buzz in him out of college. We see it. I mean, he's small, but he was a big hitter in college. He's a smart guy. He can make some plays. I think the Raiders screwed him up. Let's take him. So that's what you want. You want teams to even if by some miracle, hey, man, Obi Melifonwu, we'll give you a 6th round pick because that guy, he's big and he runs fast and the Raiders screwed him up. I mean, that's probably the extreme case. I don't think they can get anything for Obi, but he is officially still on the injured list. I mean, they gave away his number. They gave away his locker. He's not ever going to be seen here again, but he is on their roster. So I think if you can trade, get anything for him in a trade, and that'd be like a Christmas present. I mean,
Gareon Conley. I mean,
that'd be a big one.
That would be something especially if they traded all 3 of those, because that would be 4 straight McKenzie first-round picks that they would trade if they traded. If they added Cooper, Joseph, and Conley to the list. And I mean, if they aren't in love with him, if he doesn't fit in with them for whatever reason, I mean, you would think a guy that was a first-round pick just a year ago that there would be enough interest in him. I don't think they're not getting a 1 back.
No,
but if you can get a 3, a 2, I don't know if they're getting that much, but if maybe a 3, I don't know. If somebody says, okay, hey, we like that guy as a first rounder last year, we'll give you a 3. I mean, I think you have to do it, because if you've determined he's not a part of your future, you might as well get whatever you can for him and just really gear up for this draft.
Yeah, and if he's playing 0 snaps week 6, I think you're pretty much, you're not saying it, but you're saying it. You're saying it. This guy's not part of our future.
So, all right, let's see. Let's get into the other topics we wanted to take. I guess a mildly semi-positive one here. Discuss the biggest pre-buy surprises. What do you think? What's been your biggest surprise from the first 6 games? Other than how bad they've been.
Well, I guess Lynch. I mean, Lynch has been in his best shape he's been in a long time. He's running the ball hard. I think Jalen Rashad looks like he has a role for himself in Gruden's system going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, so in terms of the running game has been better than I thought it was going to be. Even if you told me that Doug Martin would be a non-factor after how much Gruden talked him up, I would have thought the running game would be in trouble. But the running game has been okay. So I think that'd be my one surprise in offense, a positive surprise. The negative ones would be like Carr's been bad, O-line's been bad, and Joey Nelson's been 3 touchdown catches, but been a non-factor of late, and then Cooper up and down. So I think the running backs has been the only real positive on offense. Defense, what would you say?
Defense, I mean,
the young foundation.
The young guys have been okay. I mean, none of them have been earth-shattering. I mean, I think they're fine. I mean, I think Mo Hurst, P.J. Hall, Arden Key, they're fine.
Yeah. Key got his first sack. In the words of Bruce Irvin,
popped
his cherry.
But I mean, it's. I think they're fine, and there's not. I mean, there are guys that you can definitely be rotational pieces that you build around, but that's. I'm not. I don't walk away saying that those guys are going to be huge different makers yet.
I'll say this. I'll agree with Gruden on Darryl Worley. And the fans are killing him because he gave those plays last weekend. But 2 of those were phenomenal catches. 2 of them he was right there. And it was a perfect throw and a great catch. Those are you kind of just at the tip of your cap. But I think Worley's been good. I think Worley's a young guy. Definitely could be like a guy who could be a starting cornerback for the next 4 or 5 years.
He's only 23. I mean,
I agree with Gruden there and Gunther. I think Worley is the goods. I think he's a guy definitely is a piece you have going forward. I mean, Melvin makes plays at times. Melvin's obviously had trouble with the system, so I mean he's not a guy you're going to plan on. But you can walk away with 1 cornerback, I guess, for the future, and then that's at least a start.
Yep. All right, ready for some questions?
Yes, questions. Let's do it.
This is we're going to have to sort through these quite a bit. They are flying in, and we just only asked for questions about a half hour ago.
Can you imagine watching that press conference? I'm sure you're like, what the F was that?
We'll just kind of run down the list. Josh Hurst, why should anyone continue to be a fan of this team? Gruden lies to the fans and trades any decent player we have/had.
Because they have cool uniforms.
There we go.
They have a rich tradition. The fan base is pretty entertaining, I'll say that. But, it's tough. I mean, I think it's so tough because it was just 2 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago, they were in the playoffs, and they looked like they were on the right track to actually being, a team to reckon with. So I think it's a tough pill to swallow. I don't know why. I mean, you got to kind of grit your teeth and kind of get through the season, and hopefully, I'll say this: if they're here next year, I think they will be in Oakland next year. I know there's gonna be lawsuits and always talk about San Diego or whatever, but I think they'll be here next year. So if they're here next year with Gruden, they got to do something. They have to make a splashy move in the offseason.
Yeah.
Could be like we mentioned before, Le'Veon Bell or someone. It's going to be big. There has to be a big move to at least help get some fans back in the seats in the stadium. So I think if you're a fan, you look forward to the draft. You have a lot of picks, maybe a lot more after this month, and maybe make a signing. And then ideally, like we've talked about, you see signs from Carr. You see Gruden and Carr are going to be a viable combination going forward, kind of a centerpiece for this team. And if you see that in the next 10 games, that should at least get you, off the ledge, I would think.
Yep. All right. From London Raider, you got to hang out with him. And
my man, he bought me a beer, yeah.
There you go. So we got to answer one of his questions. What is the point of Derek Carrier on the roster? I sat in the rain in Wembley watching our tackles get abused with no tight end help, and he's barely used as a receiver.
Wow, that's a good question.
You were big on the Derek Carrier hype train in the preseason and the training camp.
If you watch training camp and you watch that the 2 days of scrimmages against the Lions, I mean, he was incredible. He looked like he'd be a big. I saw a lot of 2 tight end things. Like I thought he would have a big role, but it clearly hasn't. So I agree with that. It's a good question. I think why not? Why not get him more involved? Because what you're using right now is not working. So, but that's a good question. Maybe I'll ask Gruden that one next week.
Yeah. All right, from PD Gammo, is Carr's lack of passing yards due more to him still learning the system, defense is catching up to Gruden's game plan, bad line play, or Carr not seeing the field? Got to imagine you're specifically talking about this game against Seattle, because up until that point he was, he was up in fourth, I think, in the league in passing. I think if you look at Sunday, he had no time to throw at all. I mean, the line play was atrocious. Colton Miller is hurt. Brandon Parker is not up to his capabilities right now. John Feliciano gets hurt, and even he, that line play was pretty bad, and it just there was no time for him.
Yeah, when you lose Cooper early on, I think the Seahawks definitely at that point made an effort to take away Jared Cook, who's been your biggest playmaker in offense. So if you take away Cook, there's no Cooper, and we mentioned Jordy Nelson, he hasn't been able to do much, and Martavis Bryant played a lot, but the White Tiger's not really been a showstopper, to be fair, so far. And then, so what you have a bunch of 5-yard passes to Seth Roberts, which I'm sure fans are not going to be too excited about. So, I think, again, the line was terrible, but you can't say Derek played well. He obviously made some mistakes, but I think it was hard. It was very tough conditions. I think it was that's the tragedy of the whole thing was that it's a Raiders home game, but it really was a Seattle home game. And most of the fans were from Seattle. The weather was Seattle weather, and they had momentum from the very beginning. And then the fans, think what that location is in those games, the international games, just like last year in Mexico, is a lot of the fans there are just there for the spectacle. They don't have a team. They like NFL's here, let's check it out. They're wearing their old, Mohamed Sanu jerseys from the Falcons, whatever they can find at the thrift store. They're all fired up, and they get there. And whatever team looks best at the start of the game, that's their favorite team. So everyone's, the Seahawks are kicking their butt. I'm a Seahawks guy. And they're loving them. And so they start cheering for the Seahawks, start making loud noise, and the Raiders are on offense. It was very loud when the Raiders were on offense at their home game. So it's just it's a very bad situation to be in if you're a team, which is already having problems even before any of that. So it was just a bad situation.
All right, question from OC Raider. How long until Marcel Aitman and other young Bucks get a crack? To me, it should be pretty soon. If you got Brandon LaFell on your roster that is inactive, it's time to move on from a guy like him and get Marcel Aitman up there. See what he can do.
Yeah, man. They gave Jack Amidi $1.3 million. They gave Derek Johnson $1.5 million. So I think at some point they'll give LaFell his 1.5, whatever, and say thanks for coming, and we'll go somewhere. But I think Kaminda's the first guy to see it. I think Aitman will be up at some point, and you got to. I mean, that's all. If you're Gruden and now you're hey America, look at me, I'm playing my young guys, and play them all and see what you got, and hopefully you got some pieces for next year.
I think right now the fact that they dumped guys like Jalen Ware and David Sharp, I mean, they're not that those guys would be the answer or anything right now, but the fact that Colton Miller is out there and you really, who else do you have?
Right.
TJ Clemmings and who the hell? I mean, who was the guy that played left guard on Sunday? What I tweeted
Murray.
out that Justin Murray, when I tweeted out,
who's ever played guard? He's a tackle by trade.
I tweeted out, when I noticed that Feliciano was out of the game watching on TV, and Justin Murray's in the game. I had to go look at the roster to look up his name, and then one of the tweets that I got in response was, I look up Raiders news every single day of the year. I've never heard of Justin Murray.
I mean, before 2 weeks ago, he'd never played guard in his life.
This is his first NFL snap.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about Jalen Ware. I think I told this story. He had a good day at camp, and I think I mentioned to someone he was a sleeper, and that person came to me the next day. He's like, "Hey, man, don't ever call Jalen Ware." This guy who was in the organization, don't ever call Jalen Ware a sleeper again because you look bad. I'm like, okay, and he wasn't in their plans. But I just think that, they're just. The guys who are gone are clearly weren't in their plans, and you can't really look back except for a couple of cases.
Yeah, the fact that they don't have many options to go to right now at tackle. I mean, you've got Ian Silberman, you've got the guys we mentioned, Murray and Clemmings, Denver Kirkland on the practice squad. I know they view him mostly as a guard, not a tackle.
Right.
Not a whole lot of options in terms of where to go. They really need They need to get healthy over this bye
seemed
week.
like today, about going back to Colton Miller, before I forget, like we asked him about the sacks the last 2 weeks. It seemed like he wasn't putting it all in injuries. Kind of like said that was more like the matchup, and he thought Frank Clark kind of dominated him. I think he wasn't giving him a total pass due to the injury. So I think Colton Miller is still kind of a work in progress. Gruden says that they love him, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
I mean, at some point, we can say, well, through 6 games, look, I mean, he's had to go up against Melvin Ingram and Frank Clark and Myles Garrett and all these guys, Von Miller, even though Miller was really more going after Donald Penn. We can say about all these great guys that you have to go up against, but he's your first-round pick. He's supposed to be a guy that's supposed to be able to match up with those. Yeah. I mean, the reason you invest a first-round pick in a left tackle is because you want him to neutralize those best pass rushers out there that you're consistently facing, and he's not doing it. Not doing it. No. All right, question here from Kevin B. My question simply is, what the F?
What the F?
I'm looking forward to your response.
What the F? No, that's a great question. I think if
I did censor that one just so I don't have to mark the explicit mark on the podcast, even though we
just thinking where we've gone from when we've gone from Gruden being at a fan rally, talking about Khalil Mack.
This fan base was so fired up about it, man.
Crazy. He's signing Chucky dolls. And it was just everyone was so impassioned about his return. He was in a great mood, and I think and people even then, like, the people at those rallies, they question how he would do personnel wise. Like that was definitely a legitimate question mark. Is he really going to be able to bring guys in and the right guys in? But those people all are like, you know what? He's a great coach. He'll have a great system going. But to this point, I think you could say he hasn't really shown that either. I mean, you can't say that the coaching staff's done a great job so far. I think that's part of the problems they've had. So, yeah, I mean, the one guy asked about the hope. What's the hope for the future? And it's hard to find some right now. I mean, you have to give him the rest of the season and how it plays out. And again, it really goes back to him and Carr. If he and Carr can get on the same page, and then you can say, you know what, the season was horrible, but at least we got that out. We got that out of the way. And next year with Carr, second year system will be a lot better. But if he can't turn Carr around and then get Carr back on the right track, then will be an epic disaster.
All right, and that leads into our final question from iRod831. Do you see Gruden benching Carr at some point this season?
This season, I do not. I just don't. I mean, A.J. McCarron, God bless him, is not going to do better than Derek Carr is. I just think, and Gruden today saying, again, we met, he's on my watch. So I just think that, and Carr, I think, to his credit, I think has definitely shown some toughness this year. I think last year you could say, you know what, the injuries took a toll. He was playing differently in the pocket. He's taking some hits this year. He's definitely trying to make plays. He ran for 3 first downs last week.
That was nice to see, yeah.
I just think he's doing. I mean, he's made some bad mistakes, but I think he's trying his best. I think he's definitely leaving himself out there on the field. So I think really Gruden can ask more of him. And Gruden said a lot of the problems he've had have been play calling also. Like some of the mistakes that Carr's made, he was put in bad situations. So you cannot bench Derek Carr this year. I mean, that again, to me, that's the only thing holding us back from being a complete disaster is Carr. So if you bench Carr and say, you know what, I was wrong about him too. I couldn't make him what he was 2 years ago. Then this will be an epic failure on all levels.
Here's the hedge. I don't see him benching Derek Carr this year, but with the way the season's going, Carr is going to take a hit that forces him out of a game at some point. Yeah. And so I think you will see A.J. McCarron at some point this year, not because Gruden has benched him, and this is this is the best way to have that happen. If you end up having to take a look at McCarron, it's because Carr takes a big hit and he needs to come out for a while, and maybe he misses a game, maybe he misses 2, and McCarron has to go play. Like you, I don't think that you're gonna necessarily go out there and see A.J. McCarron play and say, "Wow, that's the answer."
I mean, do fans want to see McCarron? There's like a mystery about him, like what he's gonna offer.
I don't. We had. It took about halfway through the 2016 season before fans shut up about wanting to see Matt McGloin. So there are some crazy ones out there.
Yeah, I definitely would think that McCarron's better than McGloin or Connor Cook. I think EJ was fine last year, but. Yeah, McCarron should be fine as a backup, but in no way is he a long-term guy who could look at as being next in line. I mean, if you really believe Carr's on his way out and Gruden's at some point going to pull the plug, It ain't for AJ McCarron.
It's for a guy you're drafting.
Yeah, it'll be for the guy from Oregon. It'll be a guy,
who, by the way, could not even complete 50% of his passes against San Jose State. Only beat San Jose State by 13 points. Earned me a 6-pack of beer on a bet for my my alma mater. That was a bet. I shouldn't be bragging too much about them since they lost 52-3 to Army this past weekend. But hey, I got a 6-pack of beer out of that, and
it beats me. I'm a Cal guy, so I'm not going to talk college football at all this week. So I mean, we lost to UCLA by 30. Winless team by 30.
Hey, well, San Jose State is 0-6 for the first time since 1923.
Wow.
Do you remember that season?
No.
Oh, me neither. All right, well, it's bye week time. I will say here's one compliment to Gruden I think that the last staff didn't do. I like that they're just saying, go, get the hell out of here. I know with Del Rio, it was always kind of practice until Thursday, and then you got your bye week. I think this team probably needs to just get away for a little while.
Yeah, I have the opposite stance. I'm like, what have you done to deserve days off?
That's true. That's true.
Like, That's a good point. You want days off? You've given me the. I mean, and Gruden today says he's proud of their effort and he has no problem with the effort, but I need a little more than what you've shown the last 2 games. I mean, you guys are killing me. I mean, I'm taking a beating, like I said, on TV, radio, on the internet, blogs, the stupid State of the Nation thing, and people are killing me. I mean, I need a little more from you guys than what I'm getting. I mean, I wouldn't give them a day off. I'd be like, you were here till, and you can have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off and go whatever, have a nice weekend. But I'm not giving you a day off after what you've done this year. I mean, it's again, the coaches get a lot of the blame and fairly so. But these players are not playing well. They got to own it. I mean, you're paying all these guys. All these veterans came in for pretty good contracts. They're not doing anything. I mean, I wouldn't give them anybody a day off. I'd be like, you know what, you don't deserve anything. So,
Vic, you deserve a day off. You spent 11 hours and 38 on Monday,
exactly.
Flying back, writing 2 stories, and you were you pretty much called it with Rashaan Melvin. You while you were on the plane, not even access to Twitter.
No Wi-Fi.
We're writing about how they need to just let him do his own technique. So you filed that story when you got off the plane. I'm like, hey, should I add in Melvin's tweet about the same thing there? You guys were.
That's amazing.
That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But, yeah, I could sense that I just think they've been doing a bad job with him. But, yeah, it was a long flight. I mean, I really salute Raider fans who go all that way. I mean, I'm not paying my money. I mean, you guys pay for it, and our bosses pay for it. But to pay all my money to go – and London's expensive. Hotels, the food, it's no joke. So you're there for 3 or 4 days or longer. To watch that effort would really piss me off. And I guess I was talking to some Seahawks fans after the game. And, of course, they should be – I mean, their team is dominated. They're in London and having a ball. And they said, you know what? They felt bad. They're like, I couldn't really enjoy myself. I looked over, and this poor effer in the black and silver face paint is just miserable in the rain watching this team not even show up. And they didn't show up. I mean, I question the effort. I mean, Gruden doesn't question the effort, but I don't know, man. There was no doubt how that – I mean, after the first 5 minutes, that game was over.
And you picked the Raiders to win that game.
I did because I thought my reasons were – Seattle didn't have much of a pass rush, but again, I had no idea there'll be a turnstile. I didn't know it was like open season.
Olé!
So, I mean, once they had the pass rush going, the game was over. And I thought, I didn't see the defense, we all know there's no pass rush and they all have issues. But again, you got to do better than that. I mean, at one point, Russell Wilson fumbled the ball, picked it up,
threw a touchdown.
Took a step, picked it up, took a step forward, threw to a guy wide open in the end zone. I mean, that's. Of all the plays this year, that might be the one that is in your season highlight package. But, again, I really disagree with the whole Gruden thing on the effort. I did not think the effort was great. I think the effort was lacking in a lot of areas. I think a lot of guys hanging their heads a little bit, kind of like, not Carr, not Marshawn, but the guys on that team here, like, I don't think they really thought they were going to win. And it was pretty evident early on that, you know what, this is not our day. We're done. Let's just get out of here. And so, especially in the last.
Get out of here and go make some babies.
During the fourth quarter, when we're all talking about, Carr wants to come back in. There's, will he come back in? Gruden says no. Dude, the Seahawks had the ball for 8.5 minutes and didn't even score. They still out there running 5-yard and passes and runs. And defenses had no desire to make a play. So, and there's a lot of veterans. I'm on a rant now. All these veteran guys you brought in who were supposed to set the foundation and change the culture and yada yada yada. These veteran guys they're on their bye week already. Our bye week is started. I'm making plans next week.
1, 2, 3 Cancun.
I don't know, man. I think at some point, I don't know when it will happen, but I think Gruden has to question the effort at some point because I think it's definitely gone downhill the last few weeks.
All right. Well, we are going to at least enjoy the bye week.
Yes.
That much needed. So we will talk to you guys again next week and enjoy the bye week. Try to forget about this one. And
exactly.
Hey,
Hit the reset button. Go out, have some
Hey,
cocktails.
you said the reset button is broken.
Well, the team is. The fans can do it. The fans have one. The fans have, because the fans are at all. They're half more delusional, half more in denial, half more about to jump off the bridge. So I think just forget about things. Don't think about it for 3 or 4 days. Come back on Monday and just say, hey, what's going on? Just kind of get back into it a little, and maybe look for some positive things. But don't invest too much in this team in this season because it's not going to be good.
All right. Talk to you guys again next week.
Thanks.